Hey everyone and welcome back. Today we've actually got a very interesting story because Diablo Immortal has a release date and it's not just coming out on mobile phones. So while to answer Wyatt, we maybe all do have a mobile phone, we don't want to play Diablo on it, and that's not going to be a problem.
Absolutely not. And it's not even just, hey, we're going to ship the shitty version of this. They've put like the effort, the love, the care into shipping this on PC, and not to the extent where they planned this all along and they held this to the end, but it definitely comes across as if Blizzard actually made a good decision at some point during development and then stuck with their guns, which is great.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised because this is the best thing that they could have possibly done with whatever game they have made.
Yep.
Of course, it still needs, we still need to see, is this a good game? But there's certainly interesting things to get into, including the size and the scope of this game, which is maybe surprisingly large. So, to get into this. So in their announcement blog, they basically say that on one hand, they felt they wouldn't be doing the title justice by releasing a mobile game on PC. I think, a lot of us will also have thought that. And if you think about a game like, say, Call of Duty Mobile, if you just put that in PC, which I think people actually can with emulators and stuff, but it still is a mobile game stuffed onto PC.
Yeah, funny you mention emulators because they talk about that a little bit later, and that's actually why they did this.
Interesting. Yeah, so they obviously understand that, and they kind of know that they want this game to hit as many people as possible. I mean, they've built the bloody thing.
Yep.
They especially want to get that into PC gamers, and they ultimately know that many PC gamers are just going to slap this thing on an emulator, and then that means, of course, you've got all these PC gamers playing an emulated version of a mobile game. That's not ideal.
Yeah, that's just a bad experience for like literally potential customers.
Yeah.
Literally bad experience for potential customers. I mean, it's modern game development. You can just throw it on PC. All you have to do is make sure everything else is nice. And that's what they've largely done, which is sick.
Yeah, so and they've been honest here. They've said basically this is an experiment from Blizzard. We didn't originally plan to put this on desktop. Obviously, you remember the BlizzCon questions, don't you? If you're a long-time Diablo player, the result will feel a little different from other PC Diablo games, but we're extremely excited about clicking demons dead with our mouse, and we hope you are too. This is a thank you letter from Blizzard, and we hope to see you all in hell when PC enters open beta in June. So basically it's like, hey, you'll do it anyway, so how about we design it so it's actually good?
Yeah.
Plus, Diablo puts out the numbers.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Diablo 2 Resurrected, extreme success.
Yep.
So there's every chance that this is going to be a fairly major release from Blizzard. But of course, we're all then thinking, mobile game and PC? And there's different ways that can go. It could be playing it via an emulator and it's shitty. Or it could be Genshin Impact.
Yep, which is, I think, just kind of the standard now for this. It's like Wyatt specifically said that as well in the like announcement thing. He was talking about how powerful phones are and how specifically like the pixel density and resolution on stuff on phone is really high. So for this to run on PC, there's like, yeah, it'll run on PC. All we had to do is put it on PC and it looks pretty, it looks great. And I know like Stiffen, the data miner for Wohead, does a load of stuff like back in the day when he was first data mining at Mortal's beta for like animation and stuff. He's like, this is better than most PC games I've seen. All of this system stuff is really, really well put together. That's like, yeah, it's a case of they've just made a good game. Basically, they've just made a game that's seemingly good based on beta stuff, and they seem to care based on beta feedback and how that's happened. And now it's just, yeah, here it is on PC.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's coming out the 2nd of June in its open beta. That's the same time as the mobile release. And much like Genshin Impact, it has full cross-play and cross-progression. Now, there is controller support for the game. A lot of people actually prefer how Diablo 3 feels on console to PC because of the controller support. So that's really good, but also there is keyboard and mouse support in the way you would expect from Diablo. In addition to that, they're supporting WASD movement as well.
Yep, which is, it feels a little bit insane, but then you think about how it would control on mobile, and you're not tapping parts of your screen to move, you're using a joystick, which is just WASD movement.
Yeah.
So they're like, yep, fuck it, here's WASD movement. And like they say, it's like moving while attacking simultaneously is native to the game in mobile, especially with like charged attacks and stuff. And that's a thing that they're like, well, that's not really been in a Diablo game before, but the mobile controls lend itself really naturally to that. So, you're just charging a spell while you're moving around a position or whatever else. And they're like, hell yeah, we'll just have people on PC do that as well. Why not?
Yeah, and for other things, uncapped frame rate.
Which is big.
And then what I was really concerned about, and I'm glad has been fixed, HUD changes. specifically for PC.
Yeah.
Which I think is important, because if you launch this in PC and the text is humongous, all the pop-ups are humongous. Now, I am sure it still is going to feel a little bit weird, a little bit non-native. Perhaps there'll be updates over time if the game actually, does good.
Yeah, so if you look, you'll see that it's literally just the scaling's kind of different. They've thrown the different hotkeys on. If you look at the images, it's kind of the same. It does look a little bit, but that's the thing where it's like, does it look mobile or does it look modern? And we think we kind of conflate the two in our head is a bit of a difficult thing. And then if you look at the menu interfaces below, they did say, in order to get this actually shipped day and date with PC and mobile, we have had to just leave these menu interfaces being too large for desktop. We haven't been able to get that scaling down. But what we have done is we've put a load of keyboard hotkeys on. We've put so it doesn't feel like you're playing a mobile game through this stuff. So there's going to be a little bit of a feel like that. And I think it's interesting that they're like, is this shippable? Yes. Is it ideal? No. Do people want to play it now? Yes. And that last part is what seems to have won out in their decision making, which I think feels fairly new from Blizzard.
Yeah, and actually just doing that, calling it open beta, not doing the whole, oh, hey, it's perfect, we're shipping it in peace. No, they're admitting that it's a beta. That means that expectations will actually be managed. They basically seem to be doing this as right as they possibly could, based on whatever time frame they've had.
Yep.
So for this announcement, they said that their goal is, of course, to reach as many people as they can. That's definitely important if you're a free-to-play game, and we could maybe talk about that in a little bit. Whether or not you have a phone, which, of course, is Wyatt referencing his very own "Don't you guys have phones?" which very much just sounded like an out-of-touch developer not understanding that somebody wouldn't want to play in a phone, because everyone in that crowd has a smartphone that can play Diablo Immortal, basically. So that's a really fun thing, I guess. Right? It's always good whenever devs can poke a bit of fun at themselves in as much of a way that a PR person will let them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, saw that and just saw it as a kind of almost like a statement of, almost like an apology. Like, that was really stupid of me. Are we on good terms now? Can we enjoy being customer and producer of a video game? And it seems like,
Yeah. So also, just the tone of this was very much, okay, we get it, a bunch of you don't want a mobile game, which is on other a good thing. Then also they confirmed that their pre-registration numbers are 30 million. Yeah. 30 million. Now, Blizzard's most recent MAUs that we have access to, 22 million.
Yep.
Now, need I remind you of what happened to Activision Publishing's MAUs whenever Call of Duty Mobile came out? Just bam. Oh, do you want another 50 million? There you go. Mm-hmm. It was, of course, Warzone factored in there as well, but it was humongous and kind of transformational. And when I think about how well D2 Resurrected sold, this is going to be, obviously more modern, more accessible, all of those things, and free to play for everyone with a Blizzard client. I think even just the amount of people that are going to try this out. And one of the things that I think this genre often does particularly well is having an initial power curve that feels really good.
Yeah, I imagine I think a lot of people were enjoying that on the beta. I think that's going to be it may not be the most lasting thing, but you look at Lost Ark hitting a peak of, to be fair, it's holding at 500k, but it hit peak of 1.3 mil, and that's just on Steam. So it's I imagine this is going to be a very, 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 very big and transformational moment for Blizzard, because this is the first time they've had access to that number of people.
Considering Resurrected did so much better than they anticipated that it broke their servers for a while.
Yep.
Now, when we go to some changes, I think there are things that were a concern to people. So on those, they initially had a system in beta that was a bit like level caps, so it would slow down your progression at the top end so the new people could catch up. Basically, right, there would be almost like a global level that would progress. Yeah. And if you were below that, you would basically have XP boosts to catch you up. And if you're too high above that, you'd be slowed down. And they were trying to do that to balance, being able to play with your friends and being able to actually get into the game. But I think that's one of those things where that's definitely a problem for developers. But from players, the idea of being rubber banded all over the place just feels really bad.
Yeah.
It kind of, no matter what, if you're catching up fast or you're being slowed down, you're basically having your efforts being diminished.
Yeah,
it reduces the meaningfulness in order to homogenize you to a global level.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the nature of the hyper-specifics, but I was looking into what people were saying about recent feedback waves and stuff, and apparently they are actually going to loosen that up. So people feel substantially less like they're capped and more just, you can play the hell out of this game if you want. I think that's going to be really strong for the opening of it.
Yeah, like I get their goals with that, and yeah, I think the fixed up version is way less rigid. The initial version was quite a bit more rigid than I think would be acceptable for a PC game.
Sure.
Now, there's some generally well-received changes from the beta, so there's more difficulty options for Heliquary bosses. You can fight them twice a week, higher difficulty available, and basically just generally being responsive.
Yeah. Which is something that, obviously that's exactly what you want from any developer at any time. The idea that they're going, yep, here's what we've learned in beta, here's how we're fixing it. You'd be surprised how many times from the World of Warcraft side that feedback loop felt like it hasn't existed.
Yeah. Or it's a situation like with, say, Azerite Gear, which was a big bungled feature from the Battle for Azeroth expansion, where people have said that according to people they know in the team basically knew it was bungled towards the end of beta, but they did not have the openness and the honesty to admit that. So what they basically ended up doing is just sticking to their guns and trying to plow through it because it's WoW, they always come back. Yep. Very much that is not how you do things in modern gaming. So, very interesting, the reaction to this. Now, obviously, YouTube downvotes are, they're not really, they're not a thing that you can see without the extension. But the extension doesn't actually tell you how many downvotes. It's just an extrapolation. So, on our very own videos, you guys could use the extension to see what likes and dislikes are. I can see what they actually are in the dashboard.
Yeah.
And often there is a bit of a difference. I think some of it is because people who are more likely to have the downvote seeing extension are going to be people who see more utility in the downvote feature. Yeah. So there is potentially a negativity bias in this data set. So that's one thing to kind of remember. Now, initially, this just would have been 95% downvotes because it was Diablo Immortal. Don't you guys have phones? Yep. Now, even with a negativity bias in the dataset, 5K thumbs up, 1.2K thumbs down. I mean, that is that's such reversal in fortunes. That's incredible.
You look at that and you go, well, if you account for some data, you're saying the vast majority of people are positive on Diablo Immortal coming to PC and releasing soon. That's not something I ever expected to say.
Yeah.
I haven't expected to say that for the past 4 years. I thought Immortal was a massive mistake that Blizzard were not going to come back from. But it seems like they, at least on the Diablo side of things, they definitely have their act together a little bit. And people are starting to feel that. There's a lot of people being really, really responsive to Wyatt being, they didn't fire him, they didn't throw him under the bus after that. They're like, no, he's the game director. He'll direct the game. And it'll be good eventually.
Yeah. I think there was some people just like, oh, Wyatt, he represents all the evil. I think a lot of us, though, were just thought, really? You left Wyatt on stage to do that? The poor guy.
Poor man, yeah.
Right? In what way was Wyatt going to win? And yeah, sure, he said that don't you guys have phones. What do you do when you know you're being viewed by maybe 1 million people and you've got all these people in front of you on stage? There's a spotlight blaring down in your face. You're going to, is it corpsing they call it in the theater world? You're going to corpse. You're going to have iffy shit happen. But this is a great opportunity for a reversal, for Wyatt to actually be seen as, this is a game director actually, tries to listen to the community, do all of that, which would absolutely be the reversal story that from a PR marketing side of things would be great. To think of two other successful games, you have FF14 and you have Lost Ark. Those are both examples of extreme bungle problems. Game director listens to problems get solved, community very much likes game director, people have faith.
Yep.
For that to happen with Immortal would be an incredible story. So we obviously have to see if the game is shit or not.
Yeah.
It'll be that. I guess what I will say is the fundamentals of an ARPG still seem to be here. It's play tested very well as a game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in terms of an overall product, they're saying this is the largest Diablo experience ever.
That's saying something after how much was in 3 and Reaper Souls and stuff like that.
Yeah, so narratively, this is set between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3.
Yep.
I believe you are questing with Deckard.
Yeah.
And again, one of the problems with Diablo 3, and it's very interesting with Chris Metzen's life, Chris Metzen's relationship with God, actually, where, he was a very different guy in the D3 era to maybe the D2 era. There's certainly aspects of Diablo 3 that felt toned down. When they announced Diablo 4, they were all about, hey, the fucking blood is back. Mm-hmm. The pentagrams are back. This is dark. And if I look at this, a lot of people in D3 saw what happened to Deckard Cain and were fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Waste of a character. And this is a whole game set after Diablo 2, questing with Deckard Cain. You know, maybe tonally are they going to try to bring this back to Diablo? Now, there is one thing that would concern me there. And it's the same reason why skeletons are troublesome for the Chinese market with World of Warcraft, and that this is co-developed with NetEase. That does mean that there are a lot of like tests in regards to cultural values for that game to actually get like approved, licensed, whatever, in what is ultimately going to be a very important market for the game. So I do have a question around that. But if this is the largest Diablo game, that makes me think it's going to have a fuckload of content. Wyatt was talking about how their social features, just so many of the things you can actually do in the game, they're like seem to be legit pushed beyond what the last Diablo game did.
That's the fun thing that they always talked about, especially when it comes to like the whole reason for having the level cap stuff that they were talking about was because they're basically considering this an MMO.
Yeah.
So in terms of how like the ARPG genre has definitely evolved since the Diablo 3 days, since early Diablo, it's definitely got a lot more MMO. You see that in Lost Ark, you see that in like some of how PoE works. It's very much now basically a different kind of MMO. And I think they're actually like, they're basically on top of their game with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, not to drum up too much hype, but it's like, it seems like they actually, it feels, you know what it is? This feels like a modern thing Blizzard are doing. And Blizzard have always kind of felt really old because they've not really released anything and they take so long to release things. I mean, same for Immortal, but it's now, it's now coming to PC and mobile at the same time. It's got a bunch of, obviously the monetization's a big question mark for a lot of people, and it seems a little bit, in the Lost Ark vein of pay to skip, pay to convenience. Some might call that pay to win. So it's like that's some of the concerns going on, but I think if everyone's just like, yeah, that's how it is nowadays. But if Blizzard are kind of showing at least a little bit of, hey, no, we know what Diablo is, we know what MMOs are, we're going to give you this good experience. We'll maybe try to make a decent bit of money off you, but we are giving you a good experience.
Yeah. I just need to see how the monetization is.
Yeah, the final version of that's going to be the kicker.
Now, Lost Ark is definitely swipe for progress.
Big time.
Like that, and that's the weird thing. Lost Ark is swipe for progress. Fucking hell.
Literally,
if you are willing to put your credit card into that game, you can cut out weeks of farming. And that's a highly successful game in the West now.
Yeah, I mean, it's sitting, I think it's like 300 to 500k on Steam quite regularly, which is insane, to be honest.
So, how will it be for Diablo? I mean, we've seen some things from the beta. They've talked about changing things a bit. I don't know how it's going to end up. That is my prime concern. But it is just interesting what Lost Ark is able to get away with.
Yeah.
So, will Blizzard... I mean, it's interesting. Could Diablo Immortal be more consumer friendly than Lost Ark, but because it's Blizzard, get hammered on by consumers more? Because a lot of people are turning a blind eye to how legitimately, you could call it pay to win, you could call it pay to skip, but how much that is a thing in Lost Ark.
Yeah, that's I guess the fun thing, where it's like, obviously Blizzard have this problem, but that's kind of how it is now. So if you can get the PR spin right, if you can get it to feel good, if you can get the curve, if you can get it so no one ever feels too heavily like they're being monetized, then they'll enjoy it, nonetheless. Because obviously, like I think I was saying in another video, but all they need you to be like 2% willing to, like 2% unsatisfied with your progress. But that's the thing where it's designed to make you feel satisfied, so it's a little predatory, but it's still going to be, you're still going to feel satisfied about it. And if that's what has 30 million people interested in playing, and however many million of those continue playing, then it's the modern way to make a game and fight, but it is. I think that's probably one of the big concerns, I think, because it's been so long since Diablo 3. And obviously 2 Resurrected was just the old game again, but remade. So it'll be interesting how Diablo players interact with a new game, with a modern game, because all of like the Helicarry stuff makes it feel very, oh, here's Lost Ark, do your dailies. I wonder if people might kind of bounce a little bit off that if they're just Diablo players who just want to play a little bit. But fundamentally, it's like, it definitely suits the modern market substantially more.
We'll see, but what this could do, this could immediately double Blizzard's monthly active users.
It will over double it, like.
It will make almost certainly more money than Overwatch and Hearthstone probably combined.
for free.
So this could be a fairly major inflection point for Blizzard, especially if they learn some lessons from this and apply it to the Warcraft mobile game.
Yeah.
Who knows what the Warcraft mobile game is? Like, even if it was just Warcraft Pet Battle Pokemon, you could put that in PC and I'm sure people would enjoy it. So it'd be very interesting to see how this goes. Look, if there's a mobile game to be developed, it could be, you know, I don't want a shitty thing where it's like, oh, you get random NetEase, extremely exploitative mobile ARPG, but now you can play it on PC. That would be shit. I wouldn't want that. But if this truly is what they are billing it as, being a full Diablo experience, the biggest Diablo game ever with a host of new features, and it actually is a really good game, and if its monetization is basically just in and around what Lost Ark is, then this could be fairly major. So we just need to wait and see. June 2nd is the big date. Of course, we'll be back with you for Blizzard news. Likely tomorrow with the Activision Blizzard earnings call. We can get really into their numbers, how things are going for them. And then, of course, the Warcraft mobile game, which will be revealed in a few weeks.
Wild.
Yeah, so crazy things going on. Thank you for listening in. Let us know if you are, now that Blizzard seem to be maybe paying a bit more attention to what the PC gaming base actually thinks about their games and their company. If they're paying attention to that more, are you actually willing to kind of meet them halfway and give it a go? Let us know. We will see you next time.